All right, so we're going to do this one more time, everybody. Thanks for bearing with us. My name is Kirsten Bohl. I work at the Mathematical Sciences Research Institute, and I'm so glad to welcome you along with my co-moderator, Erica Long, and our panelists, Anna Chu, Melissa Blunt, Michelle Melencio, Steve Light. We are all excited to be here with you today, and we are going to explore joyful children's math-related literature, and it's super fun. So thank you to everybody. Oh, Pigeon Math, how many jelly beans? Yep, seeing some familiar math titles coming in on the chat. Keep those coming, that's a lot of fun. And I'm gonna invite us to go to the next slide here. And I'd like to tell you just a little bit about the Mathical Book Prize and the Mathical Book Prize Collection Development Awards. So what is Mathical? Some of you know it well. Some of you, this might be your first time encountering it. This is a book prize for kids literature, and it's all the way from pre-K through grade 12. And as you can see, the list includes several dozen titles at this point, and it's broken out in flyers by age group, grade level bands. Who selects these books? These books are selected by a committee with representatives from the National Council of Teachers of Math, the National Council of Teachers of English, librarians like yourselves, as well as early childhood experts, and of course, a few math professors thrown in there as well. And the idea behind the prize is to inspire a love of math in the world around us. And I'm happy that we have one of our very own Mathical authors with us today, Steve Light. In just a couple minutes, he's gonna share a little bit from his classic, Have You Seen My Dragon? Again, if you're not familiar with this resource, the Mathical Book Prize, you can find the list at mathicalbooks.org. You can suggest books that you want us to consider. The books have resource pages with lots of free resources. That's a little bit circular, but you know what I mean. We also have reading guides for a number of these books. We work with DREAM, the Development and Research in Early Math Education group out of Stanford. And for many of the younger kid books, especially, there are guides with discussion questions and more. And this makes it very easy. Not everybody is already in love with math. I'm talking about adults here. Not all of us are already in love with math, right? And so those reading guides make it really a breeze to enjoy those books with kids. So we hope you'll check out those resources and check out the prize. Let's go to the next slide. So we're also here today celebrating 3 of this year's awardees of the Mathical Book Prize Collection Development Awards. So what's this, you say? Well, one of the things about the Mathical Book Prize is we don't just want to recognize fabulous books and create a list. We want to get these books into kids' hands so they can enjoy them. And this is the second year that MSRI and the Mathical Book Prize have partnered together with the School Library Journal. And each time now we've had 24, 25 librarians from around the country from Title I school libraries, all different age and grade levels, because remember the prize covers that, who are making use of these books in their classrooms. So I am super excited to hear from 3 of these folks later today about how they are utilizing these books in their libraries. So that is coming up. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Steve Light for just a few moments to give us a glimpse of a mathical title and some of the math inspiration behind it.
Hi, I'm Steve Light. So I've written 27 children's books, written and illustrated, 27 children's books now. And one of my most famous titles, and the one that won the Mathical, was Have You Seen My Dragon? Some of my other books are Builders and Breakers, if you like the kids with construction. My newest book, Road Trip, which is hopefully teaching empathy about a new world called Whispers Hollow, and a lot of board books like Blackbird Yellow Sun. But I'm going to start my PowerPoint display about Have You Seen My Dragon? and winning the Mathical, and hopefully talking a little bit about math. So let's see. Oh, here we go. Getting my Zoom skills going. All right, so this is a much shorter PowerPoint than I do at schools, but when I do at schools, I always say, these are the only 2 words you're gonna have to read in this PowerPoint, because I'm a visual learner, and I'm gonna read them for you. It says Steve Light, because as a visual learner, it's really hard for me when people do PowerPoints with lots of words and stuff, and I want those kids to know that. So that's me as a kid. My wife always makes me put this one in. And I grew up in New Jersey. So hello to all my New Jersey librarians. And again, thank you all for being librarians. And librarians really saved me. It was my safe place to get away from bullies and stuff. In New Jersey, I grew up with my 3 sisters who never wanted to be bothered with me. You can see me pushed over to the corner. And I was always off drawing and creating stories. So like I said, I've done 27 children's books. These are some of the earlier ones. The Diggers Go, Planes Go, Trains Go, Trucks Go are very popular board books. And then I started doing books with Candlewick Press, and have really enjoyed doing the picture books and board books with them. And we did Have You Seen My Dragon? A follow-up to Have You Seen My Dragon is Have You Seen My Monster, which is all shapes. And I'm a teacher of 3-year-olds, assistant teacher full-time as a 3-year-olds in a pre-K nursery school. And but before that, I used to teach at a Montessori school. So the 20 shapes in Have You Seen My Monster are from the Montessori cabinet. So there's all these like weird shapes. There's the regular shapes like square and triangle, but there's also weird shapes like curvilinear triangle and quadrifoil and stuff. So that's really a fun book too, if you're interested in the shapes. Some of the other books that I've done with Candlewick, Blackbird Yellow Sun is colors, Mama Tiger is interesting new words for them, and Up Cat Down Cat is opposites. But Have You Seen My Dragon? Have You Seen My Dragon started from me wanting to draw the city. I'm going to show you some of the sketchbook pages. I just started drawing the city one day and kind of got bored, so I added a dragon. And I remembered a story. I drove in with my dad and I saw the smoke. We drove into the city. I grew up in New Jersey. We drove into the city one day for something, I can't remember why, but I saw the smoke coming out of the manhole covers from underneath the streets. And I said, is there a fire down there? And my dad said, no, dragons live down there. And he told me this whole story about dragons living underneath New York City streets. So that started my whole journey. And these are some of the sketches. It didn't become a counting book until my art director said, well, what if the kids are counting the different dragons in the city? And at first we tried to do like each number of how many dragons, like 18 dragons, 20, but it kind of was a lot of dragons. So then we did it down to one little boy who loses his dragon that you need to find, and counting other things in the city, which was really fun because I'm such a city kid now that I love the city and walking around the city and getting ideas for things to count. So you can see this is my original sketchbook that came up with the idea. And then the above drawing is the sketchbook that I presented to my art director, and then the bottom is the finished art. So it stayed very close to my sketchbook drawings, because up until then I was doing this other kind of art for my books, and my art director said, I love the way you just draw in your sketchbooks, you should do your final book that way. So this is originally it was polar bears, but it was monkeys. And I like to talk to librarians about using this book. I teach 3-year-olds, like I said, so we act out a lot of things. So like with the monkeys, like when you do doggy doggy, where's my bone? And you have one kid go off to the side so they don't see what's happening. We do that and we all pretend to be monkeys, and we take a few monkeys away with the other teacher. And then that one kid comes back and counts how many monkeys and then how many monkeys left. So we do a little simple math like that, counting how many monkeys are left and how many monkeys left went away. We also do, I wanted to go back to the subway. We have all the little trains with the wooden tracks in our class, and we put numbers on them, and I have the kids put them in order, like they have to deliver them to the train station in order. I paint little numbers on the back of them. For the fire hydrants, I make little tape roads on, I put a few desks together and I make little tape roads for the fire trucks. And then I also have little wooden fire hydrants, and those are numbered. and I make them have to go from, go to 3 and then 4 and then 8, and it gets them moving around, and it gets them playing with fire trucks and finding the numbers. With the cars too, this is the taxi one, and there's only one white car. So we kind of line up all the cars and we put something different in there, or sometimes I put a few different things, like 2 plastic fish or something, and I ask them how many are different. And I love to talk about the water towers in New York, and also doing activities with like volume and stuff. Kids love to play in the water, and we happen to have a sink in our classroom. So filling up different containers, but seeing that some of them are the same volume, or something that you think isn't going to hold as much actually holds more, is a really fun thing to do. And of course, we do a lot of driving around in our pretend cars and stoplights and things. And so I always like to show this one last thing about this page. If you see the monkey, he's actually stealing the keys from the security guard with the branch. And you can see him here. He's using the branch to steal the things. And I always tell them, when I'm done with the story, ask me where that monkey goes and I'll show you where he ends up. And so I wanted to show all of you. So if you're reading the book, if you turn to the back of the dust cover, the monkey is right up there in the corner, sitting on the top of that building. So when you're reading the story, you can tell them about the monkey and show them that. I think my time is almost up. So I'm gonna just go quickly. So Have You Seen My Dragon won a Mathical, a Parent's Choice Gold Award, a notable, which is amazing to me because I'm really bad at math. I was always really bad at math in school. I'm actually dyslexic, so I'm always switching numbers, even like my phone number. Like I'll know that it's wrong, but I have to look it up to make sure that it's right. My friend, after it won, gave me these calipers that show the golden section, and we just laid it out after the book was done. I didn't have these when I was doing the book, and the little boy and the dragon actually line up in the perfect golden proportions of the book. Just a quick look at my studio, me painting and my cat sitting there working with me on a book, and my messy table and my sketchbooks that I work in all the time. And I draw with fountain pens, which is a really fun thing. You can find some videos online about me and about fountain pens if you have some kids that are into that kind of thing, and just some other paintings that I've done. And that's the end. That's me with my messy ink. Kids are always noticing my fingers are covered in ink, and I'm always talking about pens and drawing and making a mess. So hopefully you got some good ideas and enjoy Have You Seen My Dragon? And I'm just so honored to have won the Mathical Award. It's really a big deal. And again, thank you all for being librarians and teachers. Like I said, librarians really saved me and gave me a safe place and showed me art books and drawing books and things. And so thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. That was really fun. It was nice to think about kids running around the classroom, and you really helped make, I think, you gave us an example of Mathical being very approachable and ways to explore.
Yeah, we got to get them moving, you know?
Yep. Okay, well, we've got one surprise guest who could not be with us live today. She recently accepted a new position and moved across the country. She's a Mathical committee member. Her name is Elena Gonzalez, and she very kindly, since she could not join us live, pre-recorded. It's very short. It's about 3 minutes. And she's a relatively new committee member. And we have a short video clip from her. She wanted to reflect on the importance of representation in these books that we share with kids. And I know that's a passion that many, or I'm just going to say all of us, share. So let's hear from Celina for a few minutes, and then get ready to hear from some of your colleagues because they'll be up right after. I can't hear the sound. We're gonna regroup and try one more time. I promise you, she sounds great.
Yeah, I'm unsure why you can't hear it. Let me try one more time. I'm so sorry about this.
It may have to do with how you joined Zoom. You may have had to choose a share video setting when you joined Zoom.
Let me try it with my mute button undone and see
Okay.
how it works.
Book Prize and deeply
Is that
humbled to be
working?
able to speak about Mathical's representation during this event. The Mathical Book Prize is an annual award for fiction and nonfiction books that inspire children of all ages to see math in the world around them. To inspire this connection with math through books makes me reflect on many questions. How are books selected? Who supports this partnership? Which books reach who and why? Who makes decisions about books? And how are these books determined to inspire and celebrate math? The emphasis I want to make is that inspiring this love and joy for math is impacted by the types of books that are put into children's hands. It's connected to whether or not children see themselves in these books, whether or not they see aspects of their cultures, and ultimately what messages are internalized because of what is or is not in the books that they're reading. Mathical's intentional partnership with both the National Council of Teachers of English, the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, and other organizations dedicated to literacy serve as evidence that through books, we can develop not only strong literacy skills, but also inspire a joy of math. The partnership allows for these historically separate topics to actually be seen as friends, to be able to work together. So what about the other questions I posed? Well, the previous Mathical committee reflected on who is making these decisions about which books to make sure reach children. Last year, the committee intentionally diversified their committee in ways that included race, ethnicity, professional background, and varied experience working with diverse aged children. This diverse representation helps us be more intentional, acknowledges and addresses the barriers that may get in the way of children developing a sense of wonder and joy as both readers and mathematicians. With this intentional diversity and growing diversity, we in turn can be more intentional about finding and highlighting books that reflect all students in hopes to reach more children and to help them imagine a world where they are the main character or the author, while inspiring and all for the math around them. One thing I do know is that when you help spark joy and love of learning, that in turn, we have more capacity to make the world a better place for everyone. And Mathical's vision is to reach all children of all ages. And is this work complete? Absolutely not. However, the intention and execution of reaching children is hopefully greater and greater as we learn to really think about these barriers and how they may get in the way from children developing a love of math. Our committee is proud to have had the chance to read books from so many talented and diverse authors. We delved deeper into each book to consider many different aspects, and we hope you have enjoyed them just as much as we have. I'm confident that with every round of new book prize winners, you can imagine a whole lot more children excited and joyful about math. Happy reading.
Thanks, folks. So the sound wasn't as crisp as we thought it was going to be and know that it can be, but I'm happy to share a transcript. I'll work with the SLJ staff and we'll get that out. But one of my favorite quotes from that short piece, Celina reflected on how she wants kids who are reading books in the Mathical List to see themselves as the main character or the author. So there's a punchline. It's not the only punchline, but there's one of them. See themselves as the main character or the author. So with that, I am going to turn things over to my colleague Erica Long, who is school librarian at Metro Nashville Public Schools. And she is going to kick off the second half of the program, and I'll see you at the end. Erica.
Thank you, Kirsten. Welcome, everyone. I hope you have enjoyed the webinar so far. We are going to move into the next section of the webinar where we get to meet three wonderful librarians who are award winners of the Mathical Books Mathical Book Prize Collection Development Award. So we will go one by one. They'll have a short presentation to share with you. And at the end of the three of their individual presentations, we'll bring it back together for a group Q&A. So we're going to kick it off with Anna Chu of Carriage Hill Elementary School. So Anna, take it away.
I'm going to wait for my slides.
Can you see them?
All right. Yes, I can. Thank you so much. And gotta love Google Slides. The formatting looked good on my end, but so I wanted to give just a little bit of background about myself. You can go ahead and switch, Kelly. Thank you. I have been in education for 18 years. I started out as a high school English teacher, which is kind of part of my evolution here in terms of math and books. I love literature and stories and all of that aspect. I always have, but kind of coming a little bit later, as we've alluded to the love of math within that. And so I always say that when I was a high school teacher, I left all of those math questions to my wonderful subject area expert colleagues. Math, I always, math is a hugely important skill, but I kind of knew my parameters in that case. I currently do serve 2 elementary schools within the same district. Like I said, I'm learning to love math. I am also a military spouse, so I get to reinvent myself as a librarian for a couple of years, which has its pros and its cons. I did start out in high school and have had a chance to serve all the way from pre-K up to high school students in the library, and have been able to explore and love the literature throughout all of that. You can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Thank you, Kelly. So Carriage Hill in particular is about 450 students. It's a K through 6 building. We have about 3 classes at each grade level. We would be considered, a suburban school, but we are fairly close to the, Omaha metro area. One thing that has made this a little bit unique, not only was I new last year and all of that meant, but we were under massive renovation, and we had teachers moving classrooms multiple times throughout the year. I had no students in my library, and I had about 6 colleagues in there. So I didn't even really get a look at the full collection until the beginning of this year in my newly renovated library. And so, the grant was a wonderful opportunity to really be able to start off the year and to showcase some great titles this year. Just so that you are kind of aware as I'm talking about some of these things, because I know there are a lot of different library positions around the country. I am full-time with my district, but I serve 2 elementary schools. And I see my students about once every 2 weeks. You can go ahead and switch slides. So the biggest factor for me, although I do have some collaboration time in my schedule, being relatively new to my staff and trying to really kind of work on those relationships, what I really focused on were a number of the titles incorporate some of those things like music and art. And so for me, that's a really great way to go to those teachers and say, hey, I've got this really great title that I would really love to share, and I'd really love to delve into it more than the 40 minutes that I have for checkout every 2 weeks. So what can we do where we can work together in that area? And I have some fantastic specialist colleagues who really jump on board with that as we're working there. In our district, each of the elementary schools has a full-time instructional coach. And so I have been working with our instructional coach because math is not my inherent home, I guess, to sort of say, hey, where are these different concepts and different things going to be able to fit in? It's also been a good way as teachers have, had a lot on their plate over the last year for me to really maximize the time. I love to sit down and chat with teachers, but to really talk with her about, okay, where can we focus and where can we look on getting some of these things in, or when can I share these titles when they're presenting these concepts in class? So I've really tried to work on a close relationship with her. And then the last one is Friends of the Library teachers, those teachers that I know that have made themselves known just in the last year that, they're kind of my starting point with building those relationships. So that's where I'm looking at really incorporating the Mathical titles and working with teachers in that way. Next. The way that I've kind of been getting this word out, like I said, we were under construction, so the books arrived last year, and I actually didn't even get to open them because we were packing up at the end of the year. In the Midwest, we're ending before the end of May. And so I didn't have access to those things. My library was renovated. So at the very beginning of the year, I was like, all right, I want to get these out. What should I do? And just to fill that new space, I put the books up, and it was just heartwarming to see the kids. They didn't need any prompting, and they didn't need a lot of, you know, special direction with that. And sometimes I need to remember that. Sometimes I get like, okay, I need to do this and this and this. But putting the books out really was a great reminder of them just getting their hands on it and experimenting with it without necessarily having to do a specific display. I have some things that are in my back pocket with those, but that was a good reminder that it doesn't always have to be as flashy as I anticipate. I'm going to talk a little bit about the newsletters, how I've been trying to feature in Destiny Discover, and then kind of a book promo campaign. So we can move on to the next slide. A few pictures here, and these, they look a little staged, but they are not. This was actually one of the first days I had the books up on display, and the kids came in and they were looking at them. And the Jelly Bean book, of course, it's a little bit oversized, which I didn't actually know when I ordered it. So I got this big box from Follett, and I was like, what is this? You know, I thought it had been delivered wrong. And I opened it up, I was like, oh, this is great. And the kids open up the book, and we talked about how let's put it down on the floor so you can look at it. And it's going to be, at this point, just something that we have in the library. But they immediately were, you know, starting to talk about it and generating conversations just on their own. And that was really exciting to see. And then these boys were having a lot of fun comparing the shapes and trying to figure out what doesn't belong, what's the difference. And I kind of walked over and, you know, pointing at different ones, and I said, well, why, you know, I was asking a few questions, and they were having a great time. So that was a lot of fun to see. You can go ahead. In terms of communicating with staff, like I said, I hear in conversations from teachers that, you know, they have a lot going on. And so it's a fine balance between wanting to showcase what I can do for them, but, you know, not wanting to overload them. So I've tried to give them a lot of access points for these titles, putting together newsletters. The first one was kind of focusing on some of the biographies and specifically the mathematicians and that sort of thing, sharing those, and then giving them an opportunity that if, you know, hey, here's your quick way to, you know, if you want to work out a collaboration, if you think this would be a good share with your students, let me know. Our principal does a weekly newsletter that goes out to staff. And so I have included a QR code that links to just a single one-page, my quick 5-minute take on a particular title that's in the collection. You can scan that if you want. I didn't include that in the presentation, but it should be a live link. Hopefully I checked it. And it's just, like I said, super quick. This one happens to be for One Fox, which is a particular favorite of mine. And talking to teachers about, hey, what's the hook? What are some of the different concepts that you that would be associated with this? And that's something that I'm going to be including throughout the year in those newsletters. You can go ahead. We happen to use Destiny in my district. I've had an opportunity over the years to use Alexandria and TLC. So I know they all have similar features, but I have worked to put together a collection in Destiny that has our Mathical titles so that the teachers, again, can easily access that. I've also made it, of course, accessible for students so that we can talk about, hey, this collection here has a lot of different math books. I was really excited to discover that when I finally got into my nonfiction at the beginning of this year, that one of my colleagues who had been in my position before does have a nice start to some other great math titles, some of which I knew already that we did have that were on the Mathical list as well. So we were able to add to those. So I will be adding some books to that section as well. You can go to the next one. So something that I had started last year is this kind of booked promo campaign, and that looks a couple of different ways. I usually choose a theme about every 2 months, put the books out in the bags, teachers circulate those, they can share them at will. Some teachers read, you know, they circulate it and read every single title to their students. Sometimes we split it between chapter books and kind of do a first Friday sort of thing and picture books. So again, this is a way for them to share it on their timeline, or at least even if they don't share it with their students, to take a peek at it and say, hey, this looks like a really great title that would align with my curriculum, or what can we do to match with this. The titles on the left are those that I ordered multiple copies of for some small group work, so that the kids can really get their hands on those, and we can do kind of some small group work either with the teachers, or we have some flex time where I can invite some students into the library and we can do like kind of like a mini book club sort of thing. Next. All right, one of the things that I'm looking forward to is we do a summer program within the district, and a lot of these titles have gotten me excited to share these with a wider audience as well. We are about, I don't know if it's quite half of maybe about a third of the schools in our district are Title I, and looking at what we can do to get some foundation funding to do some story walks that would incorporate some of the Mathical titles to really kind of get those shared with even a wider audience, not only our elementary students, but out into the community with parents. I think of myself as a parent. I now love to share math books with my daughters at home, but I know that that can sometimes be looking at a book and going, oh, I don't know if I want to tackle that, or you know, how are we going to do that, or I don't like math, why would I ever touch that? I want to work to change that concept, because I know for me it has been so eye-opening as a parent and definitely as a teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. I saw a question in here that I want to give you a chance to answer before we move to our next presenter. So let me go back to it really quick.
Is it the booked bag?
Laura, yes, Laura asks, are the booked bags just for teachers?
Yes, yeah, they are some nice canvas bags. I got some funding through our PTO, and so I have like a set for every teacher, and so those bags circulate to the teachers, and we reuse them every month or two, kind of depending on how often I put out a theme. So that's something that is reusable, but kind of makes it have a little bit of polish as we're sharing those books and kind of keep a cohesive theme.
Awesome, thank you. So lots of exciting things happening over there. We are going to shift to Michelle Valencio, who is at Bryan Woods Elementary School. Michelle.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. So hi, can everybody hear me okay? My name is Michelle Valencio, and I'm a media specialist at Bryan Woods Elementary in Columbia, Maryland. This is my 9th year teaching with Howard County Public Schools and my 2nd year at Bryan Woods Elementary. Bryan Woods Elementary is the oldest school in Columbia, Maryland. It was founded in 1969. Columbia was the state of Maryland's first planned community. By car, Columbia is about 30 minutes outside of Baltimore City and about an hour away from Washington, D.C. Next slide, please. So Bryan Woods Elementary is one of the smallest elementary schools in Howard County. We have a very ethnically, racially, and economically diverse population at Bryan Woods. As a media specialist, I'm currently working with the media specialist intern. Her name is Erin Engelbrecht. She's a graduate student at the University of Maryland and has been instrumental in her mathical ideas that I'm going to share with you today. As a Title I school, we have many math resources available to our students. We are fortunate to have a full-time math support teacher, a math specialist, a part-time math interventionist, and 2.5 Title I teacher positions. Math is celebrated every day in our school, and the joy of math is very present here. Next slide, please. This Mathical book display was created by our University of Maryland intern, Erin Engelbrecht. The theme is Books Are Mathemagical. These Mathical books have been flying off the shelves here at Bryan Woods. In the past, this book display area was used for a completely different purpose. So we're really excited that we were able to use the space for the Mathical book display. Next slide, please. For our online presence, we created a Mathical Books book river on our public access catalog. This includes all of the Mathical Award winners, honors that we purchased with the Mathical Collection Development Award that we were granted. Next slide, please. When promoting our Mathical books, we've been sharing all things Mathical with our families. We have an APlus partnership with the Howard County Library System. And as part of our partnership, the Howard County Library System instructors work in tandem with school media specialists, classroom teachers, and other Howard County staff. When I shared the Mathical activities we've been doing at Bryan Woods, our Howard County Library System liaison shared the math programming events that they've had at the library and that they are going to continue to have at the public library. My goal is to promote these public library events with our families as well. Next slide, please. Our media specialist intern, Erin Engelbrecht, created this Mathical activity for our students. She asked for students to be honest about their math feelings. Erin has a very positive and healthy relationship with math. My feelings were the opposite. We wanted students to know that they could be honest about their math feelings and to also think about how they could use math in their lives. When collaborating with our math support teacher, she asked if we could share the student responses with her and classroom teachers so that they knew what they were working with. Erin also promoted the Mathical book display to students and shared read alouds with the students. Next slide, please. These are 2 grade 3 through 5 student examples we received. We really enjoyed reading the student responses. As you can see on the left, one student said math makes them feel happy and frustrating. They like math because they get to solve problems. They think math is joyful and hard. And then he created an acrostic poem about math. On the right, this person, math makes them feel focused because when they do math, they don't think of anything else. They like math because it gives them a challenge, because it's interesting. And then there's their acrostic poem about math. Next slide, please. These are 2 grade K through 2 student examples that we received. We really appreciated the students' honesty on how they feel about math and how they use math in their lives. On the left, the student said that math makes them feel sad because they're not good at it. On the right, this student says, I am making pancakes for breakfast. Next slide, please. Erin collaborated with our math support teacher on this Mathical activity. 4th and 5th grade students were placed in pairs and given a pre-selected Mathical book. As a part of their planning sheet, students were to create 3 math questions to ask kindergarten students during a Flipgrid read aloud. Erin created a rubric on what an exemplary read aloud should look like for our kindergarten students. The 4th and 5th graders are still in the video planning sheet stage, and we hope to have the Flipgrid, the final Flipgrid videos completed within a week or 2. Next slide, please. These are some future plans that I have for our Mathical activities. First, I plan to work with our math support team to create a mathematics awareness month in April. I plan to use the Mathical books to intertwine the library media and math curriculum. And if you notice in the right-hand corner, bedtime math, that has been a very, very popular book that they have used on family math and reading night. But now that we have so many other titles to choose from, we've got a lot more that we can use now. Second, I plan to have more students and staff involved with Flipgrid book talks. Previous Flipgrid book talks have resulted in books being in high demand for circulation. Third, Bryan Woods has had family math and reading nights throughout the year. I plan to collaborate with the Title I team on family engagement events that celebrate math with various Mathical books. And as I said earlier, bedtime math has been used consistently, but we have so many more Mathical titles to choose from when sharing math joy, and I can't wait to do that. Next slide, please. It takes a community to make great things happen for our students. As a media specialist, I could not do this all on my own. There's no way. So I have so many people to thank for their assistance, support, and ideas for all things Mathical. I cannot do this alone without the collaboration of the staff here at Bryan Woods, but also with the community. This is my special thanks slide. And last slide is if you just want to follow Howard County Public Schools on Twitter, if you want to follow my school, Bryan Woods Elementary, or if you want to follow me, here I am. And that's it.
Thank you, Michelle. Some great ideas there, and it looks like your students are really enjoying having this opportunity to engage with those books in math. So I am going to ask Kelly really quickly if the next one, if we can try to keep it on present mode so that the slides are bigger.
Yeah,
And
we're having a
then,
little bit of a tech issue. I can try,
okay.
but I was having a difficult time toggling in present mode, which is why I went back to the other view. We can try it again.
Okay.
I apologize.
Thank you for trying. And then I did drop Michelle's Twitter handle in there. I know some people were still trying to catch that. So it's in the chat. And Michelle's catchphrase.
I honestly don't know what my catchphrase was. I'm trying to think. Was it all things mathical?
Magical, yeah. Was it that one or the books are math magical? Okay.
Oh,
that
yes, that is
yeah.
the one that Erin Engelbrecht, our
Erin
intern, came up with.
Yes. Okay, awesome. Thank you all for so much engagement in the chat. All right, so we are going to continue on with our last librarian before our Q&A session, and that is Melissa Blunt from George Middle School. Take it over, Melissa.
Thank you, Erica. I want to start with a quote. Actually, we do Motivation Mondays here at George, and we have our students reflect on meaningful quotes. So this one's from Giancarlo Roda from the book Indiscreet Thoughts. The apex of mathematical achievement occurs when two or more fields, which were thought to be entirely unrelated, turn out to be closely intertwined. And I felt like that really related to having librarians present about math, because I'm not much for math myself. Yeah, we're just going to stay right there. Thank you, Kelly. So I'm Melissa Blunt, and I'm the teacher librarian at George Middle School. We're in North Portland in Oregon, and I serve students from 6th to 8th grade. We are also a Title I school. I really felt like the Mathical award-winning books really show the brilliance of mathematics and the apex of that magic by intertwining a love of our books and reading and literacy, along with the sometimes fascinating, frustrating, and confounding subject of math. We know as librarians that math and literacy are tied together. They really are integrated, but sometimes our students and even our math colleagues might need inspiration to find those connections. And so these titles really do help us to support our students and our staff's achievement as they try to reach that apex of mathematics. So yes, as I said, I'm Melissa Blunt, and as I mentioned earlier, oh, next slide, please, Kelly. Fingers crossed. Okay, we're on the one that says hello. Thanks.
I'm going to
Nope.
have to keep it out of presentation.
No worries. I'm good with that. And now you all can see what I'm going to say ahead of time. So a lot of folks think that Portland or Oregon, based on what they've seen in the news or seen on media, seen in Portlandia or on the show Grimm, lots of shows that are filmed here, you might have one idea of Portland, but my school is actually much different than what you might imagine. A lot of those stereotypes are true. If you ever come, yes, please go to Powell's Books. I will give you a tour personally. But no, we don't always put a bird on it. Some of that is not true. My school's between two neighborhoods. One is called St. John's. We have a famous historic bridge there, and Portsmouth. I also have a library assistant, Judy Savinar. She's been here more than a decade, and she's really the heart of our school in a lot of ways. Next slide. So just to look at the demographics, the city of Portland is racially about 70 to 80% white, and is relatively affluent comparatively with some places in the country, but my school doesn't really reflect those same demographics. We're in a neighborhood that sort of stands apart in a lot of ways. We're also community eligibility. We have around 70 to 80% of our students that would automatically qualify for free and reduced lunch. So our whole school is fortunate enough to have free breakfast, lunch, and a snack every day. We also work closely with a lot of community nonprofits that support immigrants and refugees. We also became a dual immersion school for Spanish about 2 years ago. So that's new to me, and I'm practicing my Spanish every day. But for a long time here, math achievement has been seen as one of our biggest academic challenges. And the state average in Oregon is already not very inspiring, and we are unfortunately a little below that. Oregon education is critically underfunded in both the urban and rural districts, unfortunately. Next slide, please. The really great news is that when my students are presented with challenging math content and inspiring math education and instruction, they do rise to the occasion, and they achieve great things. So we offer an Algebra 1 class for 8th graders, and of those students who take it, 100% pass, which beats the state average. So it's really just offering that, and then finding ways to help them feel inspired, to see themselves reflected in math, and understand that they can do it, they can achieve. They're really funny and insightful kids. I really love my school community, which is why so much of this presentation focuses on that. But they're always learning, whether it's what we offer them or what they find on their own. So I want our library collection to have them seeking out academic topics and things that will inspire curiosity. Next slide, please. One way I always try to make math fun, or any subject, is with memes. So I'm sharing some memes to break up the webinar a little bit here. I really love the Lil Nas X, Lil Nas Y, because I just learned about algebra about last year. So I don't always like math, just to be real with you all. And I convinced myself that it wasn't my thing. I excelled in reading and English, classes like that. So I sort of brushed it to the side, but becoming a parent helped me find some joy in math, as I shared that with my son. And also, as a teacher, I have to sometimes offer tutoring support as needed. And so I really had to brush up on my own math skills, which led to more of a love of math for me. So I love to break the ice with math humor, math memes, math jokes. One of our math teachers always has the greatest t-shirts with little math puzzles and slogans on them. So if you're thinking of making a mathical display for your middle school, consider finding some great math memes. There are a lot out there, and that will draw their attention and kind of get them laughing and interested. All right, next slide. So there's a lot going on this slide, but these are some of my programming ideas. Like Anna, my library was under remodel last year, and we were doing distance learning. So we got this award, we were really excited, but we didn't get the books until students were long gone for the summer. So I'm just getting the chance to use them. But these are some of those programming ideas that I've cooked up. And we do have a STEAM continuum, so our students have either maker spaces or STEAM electives, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, from middle school through high school. So I actually visited the STEAM elective on Friday and had like a book tasting where they could try out different books from this collection, and I showed them how to access them on Sora and Destiny Discover. If you have a makerspace or other STEAM opportunities in your library, whether it's a school or public library, that's one great way to share these books. We also offer book bundles when we do like Drop Everything and Read or other school-wide silent sustained readings. So having math specific titles for the math teachers will really help. I always try to offer like sports titles for PE, art titles for math or for art electives, and now I have math for those teachers as well. We're going to use these titles to highlight some in-person celebrations of math, like I was thinking Pi Day is in March, but then even before that, we have Fibonacci Day coming up in November 23rd. So consider other things like that. I know some schools celebrate Dot Day, and I heard from some of you that, yeah, that's a book that your school loves. So you could also use these titles to get excitement building for a science fair or science expo if your middle school has that opportunity for students. We are also piloting a block schedule this year. We have 2 days of block. So teachers are kind of struggling to fill those longer time periods. And so giving them an option for a class novel in math or in STEAM or in science, or giving them, you know, the option to have a few books in their rooms that students can access will help fill up that time and make it academic at the same time. A lot of these books have like brain teasers, math puzzles, or riddles. And so we are also using them as part of our advisory curriculum, which is our warm up for the day where students kind of start in homeroom. And then they kind of get their brains thinking about math early on in the day. All right, next slide, please. This is just a quick video of, it's just a screencast of our Destiny Discover collection. So like Anna, we use Destiny. I built a collection there so both teachers and students can easily access that. And we can just kind of point them in that direction, or I can use it to promote this collection to staff. It really helps because it's very visual, so students get to see all of the various covers that are there. And obviously we would maybe have a special display like the one behind me. And as Michelle showed, I really loved her ideas and steal some of those or borrow. Next slide, please. Maybe you're wondering which of these titles are best for middle school ages. And so I just wanted to point out, and you can, I think, click the video. I'll link the slides in a minute. But they have different tags so that you can see books by age band. So we started with 11 through 13 and then chose a few from the higher age bands like 14 to 18. And we also chose a few from the lower age bands because middle schoolers still like picture books. And a lot of times it might give a lot of content in a very simple format, which supports our developing language learners and other things like that. All right. Next slide. This is more of those more challenging titles for 14 to 18-year-olds, but they could be used again as a class novel, an extension activity in a math classroom for a student that kind of races through their work. Or I'm also our tag facilitator for talented and gifted students. So trying to support those students in accessing deeper concepts, more thought-provoking ideas that they might not get around to in the class. All right, next slide. I did want to end with a quote also. This one's from Jodi Picoult's book, 19 Minutes. A mathematical formula for happiness is reality divided by expectations. There are two ways to be happy: improve your reality or lower your expectations. We're all dedicated educators and librarians, and we always hold very high expectations for our students. So the next best option there is to help them improve their reality. And again, manage our own expectations too. All right, next slide, and that's just my information. If you'd like to email me with any questions or follow our library on Instagram, we are GMS Library PDX. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. So lots of I'm agreeing with the sentiments in the chat about the quotes are amazing and so are the suggestions. So just throw some round of applause in the chat for our three school librarians, Melissa, Anna, and Michelle, who have shared with us. And we are really close to the time to end. So I am going to push us on into this discussion really quick. So I've kind of listening to all of the things that you've shared. And thank you again to Steve as well, who is still here with us. So I will throw out some of the questions that I came up with, and you all can kind of chime in as you so choose. One of the things, I think I'm going to start with Melissa. because I'm a secondary librarian. I've always been a secondary librarian, and there are some, of course, books on the list that are for middle school and high school because the award ranges from pre-K through 12. But I do wonder how sometimes it's hard to connect with those secondary grades because of the amount of time to pull from the classroom, because they're sometimes not on a fixed schedule, they're on a flexible schedule. So what ideas do you have for librarians who are eager to do lessons with Mathical titles but have limited access with classes? And some of you might be experiencing that at the elementary level as well.
My biggest suggestion would be to make it easy and also to hopefully take something off the teacher's plate. Obviously, most math teachers have a lot of curriculum to get through, but last year in distance learning, I did a lot of screencasts, and I used social media and other ways to sort of send it out to the teachers so then they can access it from their classroom. That would also work great with the Destiny Discover collection. Most of those are ebooks. We did a mix of ebook through Sora and paper books. Also just bringing the books by their classroom or saying, hey, can I come in and co-teach with you? Which is what I did with our STEAM elective. Anytime we can kind of take something off the teacher's plate, they're going to be much more accommodating. And especially if you're having a hard time getting classes scheduled to come in, or you're booked up with your ELA classes or language arts classes, you could do something like that to kind of be in two places at once.
Yeah, agreed. It's all about taking something off of their plate, right? Not making it seem more full.
Exactly. Don't give them more work. They won't like that.
Absolutely. Celina mentioned earlier in the video that we saw how important it is to always make sure that our collections are reflective of our student populations and making sure that they can see themselves in books, right? And I know that that's something that you all talked about as well, especially with sharing all of your demographics for the different school communities that you serve. So how did you go about selecting the right titles off of the Mathical Awards list for your collection that would allow your readers to see themselves in those books?
Is that for all three of us?
Yes.
I will go first. My students, when Hidden Figures came out, it was quite a stir. All the teachers wanted to show the movie, and so I was excited. I bought all of the books. There are about 3 or 4, I believe, on the Mathical list that either relate to Katherine Johnson or Hidden Figures, or there's one called Hidden Women, which is all about those women mathematicians, and they are women of color. I also tried to get as many Spanish titles as I could, to encourage our DLI students to engage with that as well.
Michelle or Anna?
I'm going to say a lot of these titles I had never heard of. So just going through the reviews to see, what the book was about. But my favorite books that I kind of gravitated towards, this is just me, my own biases, is picking out the books that focused on women, girls in math, because I really wanted our young girls to see that. Because I felt that there's more of a presence with the males in math, but not so much as a female. So I really gravitated towards picking those titles for our students.
Yeah, I love that transparency.
I would agree with Michelle that I guess that's a little bit of my own bias that comes through with that as well. One of the things that I think sometimes it's easy to pass over is that, looking at some of the books that are about people that we go, oh, well, I don't know if I guess this is just me, I don't know if I can do a deep dive. This is the high school teacher and be like, okay, it's about a person and I want them to, have the whole story, and I worry about that. And I'm like, one of the great things about moving in, the elementary level is that I've let go of that sometimes just sharing the story, it's the exposure. Somebody else had mentioned one of the titles that is not yet on the Mathical list. I'm kind of wondering if it might appear this year. That happens to be about a female mathematician. I shared that with some students, and it's higher level math that I can't even conceive of. And I was at first like, oh gosh, there's no way I could do this. And so, especially some of those books about people and kind of the idea that math comes from somewhere, I don't know if that's the right words to describe it, but we learn the numbers and we learn the concepts, but understanding how that there's actually like people come up with these concepts and they test these ideas and they fail. And then they try something else. And that whole process, as opposed to we just see that, well, you follow these steps and you get this answer. I have really kind of tried to, what is the story behind the people who have been a part of this whole field, is something that I guess is something that I kind of am interested in, and seeing that the students, can see that there's people there.
Great, thank you. So before I get to my last question, I want to push one of the other ones in here, and while we still have about 4 minutes left. What are some of the challenges you want students to overcome through incorporating Mathical titles into your librarian programming or co-teaching?
For me, what I really loved about co-teaching with our media intern is just our different relationships with math that her and I had. And, we told them they all have different relationships with math. I mean, the intern here, Erin, she grew up loving math. She had a great relationship with it. Me, not so much. And when I shared that with the students, they were kind of like, what? Like, really? You don't like math? They were, but some of them did agree with me. And yeah, so just, I'm sorry, ask the question again. I was on a tangent here. I was on a roll. I can't remember what I was going to say.
You're doing well. Just thinking about what are some of the challenges you want your students to overcome.
Yes.
By incorporating these,
Yeah, not being afraid to get a math book, because if I were to say, oh, this is a Mathical book, they might be like, nope, not my thing. But if I could put a spin on it a different way for them, maybe they will be interested in reading the book, which is why we're trying to do the Flip Grid book talks to get them interested in these books that try a book that they may never normally read. The other thing is what I liked about what our intern did was these Mathical activities, like how they use math every day and don't even think twice about it. Like you're not even thinking about it, that you're using math every single day outside of the classroom.
I like what Kirsten said in the chat about growth mindset. Mine would probably be trying something new is a big challenge for a lot of students. They're afraid to take risks, especially academic risks. And so just having them try something new with these books, if they are a big reader, but they maybe don't like math, they could try this book. Or if they are into math or other subjects, but they don't really love reading, they can try these books to sort of find a connection point. One of the books that was checked out during our book tastings was a cookbook, actually. And so I think that's really exciting because students that might like to cook will be able to find a love of both math and reading using titles like that.
Yeah, and how often is it that kids don't realize how much math is involved in cooking? Unless you're like me, you just throw the stuff in there. You don't care about the measurements.
Like I said, I'm with 3-year-olds, but they don't even realize that they're doing math because we're putting out a little menu of 3 pretzels for snack, and they have to count out 3 pretzels, and we're counting them as they line up, and those kind of things. So it's not like we're saying, okay, this is math. We're doing math, but they're just learning it in a fun way that's just organic with things that we're doing in the classroom, like baking and measuring and all that. So
yeah, awesome. So I'm going to throw my last question out here because we are really close to our 5-minute mark of going over. What advice would you give librarians who might be interested in applying for the Mathical Book Collection Development Award?
I'm going to jump in on this and say do it. because somebody in my state posted on one of our groups or whatever. She had received actually the award the previous year, and she posted something about, hey, here's this award, you should, she posted something about it, and somehow it came back up on my radar. I don't know if it was the school library journal or something, and I kind of reached out to her, and again, I was like, math, that's like in terms of writing a grant. And once I saw the list, I was like, okay, these are fantastic titles. And the application, I will say it was nice and streamlined for somebody who has a busy schedule. So that was really nice. But I just do it. And I love the joy of math. That's something that really resonates for me, as a lot of us have kind of said that that's something that I've come back to. So I think the biggest thing is it's nice also with a narrowed list. I know sometimes with grants, my list can get really long. So having these recommended titles to kind of say, okay, here's these great titles and what can I do with these and apply these. So I would say, look over the stuff and just do it.
My biggest philosophy is the worst answer that people can say is no, that at least I tried. I mean, it's 50-50 chance, either yes or no. And I was very surprised that y'all said yes. I was like, woohoo, this is exciting for the kids. I did not do this grant by myself. I reached out to a Title I teacher because I needed a little bit of help with the part asking about math, the part where it asked about math joy. I reached out to the middle school media specialist, one of the in our neighborhood, asking for advice on, helping me write up the grant. And also I asked a parent. I did not do this all on my own. So collaborate, use your resources that you have at your school and your community. You do not have to do the grant by yourself because, it benefits all the students. So.
I would just echo, definitely do it, just go for it. I felt it was fairly quick and easy, and also have a plan for how you might use these books before you apply. So hopefully our ideas can be shared and reused and recycled, but go for it. I'm definitely going to recommend it to the other Title I schools in my district here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Anna, Michelle, Melissa, Kirsten. Thank you for inviting me. Kelly, thanks for running the show behind the scenes. A couple of questions filtering in at the very end of this. Is there a certificate of attendance or for professional learning points? Kelly or Kirsten, do you have the answer to that? Or is that something we need to connect with Kathy on?
I don't have the answer. Kelly, do you happen to know?
I do not, but whoever has that question can email me at kbarbieri@mediasourceinc.com.
I just want to acknowledge we've also been getting questions throughout about things like closed captioning, the transcript for Celina's bit, sharing of slides, sharing of the recording. So I understand there are a lot of great questions about follow-up, and I will ask those questions afterward. And I'm sorry we don't have an answer right this moment, but I'm eager to know the same thing. So I'm really grateful to Erica and to Michelle and Melissa and Anna, and also to Steve. We've had a lot of fun, and I hope you have too. And I hope you check out the SLJ link here is so that you all can apply this spring for the Mathical Book Prize Collection Development Awards, and then the Mathical website address is here too. Erica, do you have closing thoughts?
I just want to say it was a great opportunity to share with everyone, so I'm very grateful. Kirsten, I will say someone asked if you could also share these slides that you created for the webinar as well, that give kind of the overview of Mathical and has the links on there. This was when I was asked to do this webinar, it was my first time learning of the Mathical Book Prize. And so it is definitely something that I will be sharing out. I loved being able to get to research more about the prize and getting to hear from these librarians about how they're using it in their school buildings is really amazing. So always looking forward to hearing more about what people are doing in their schools. And I hope that some of you in the audience today are planning to apply for the upcoming Collection Development Award. And stay tuned for, don't forget to suggest titles for the Mathical Book Prize, and stay tuned for the new prize or honor books that are coming up. So thank
Thanks,
you all
everybody.
for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenna, what page?